is a little more personal because it's like you're making the sounds with your body. I have a little bit of a hitch there in my giddy up, but as a pastor, kind of suck it up, Buttercup.
I feel like Jeff is like a Toy Story Woody doll.
Welcome back to the Practically Pastoring Podcast. My name is Frank, and I am glad that you are here. We got a great episode for you. We're going to answer two questions today, both from Reddit. One is about how to tell a worship leader who can't sing that they can't sing. And then the other thing we're going to talk about is we're going to help someone who has been rejected by their third church and how to navigate the interesting landscape of church jobs. So with that being said, I'm here down in Florida. My name is Frank. Up in Baltimore, Maryland, we got Jeffrey Simpson.
It's baseball season, baby.
Down in Sumter, South Carolina, we got Delmar P.
Hey, how's it going?
Next to me in the Morning After Ministry Studios, we have Andrew Larson.
Greetings, salutations, one and all.
And looking like a really chill guy, we got Timothy Miller.
Andrew, I'm sorry about your Liberty Flames in the tournament.
It was awful.
By the way,
it was terrible.
The Terps are through, though. The Terps are through.
All that.
I went the round of John
Christ.
Could
not possibly care less about college basketball, but the Terps are through.
I went the round of John Christ and only chose
Christian teams.
Only chose Christian teams.
Christian colleges.
Yeah. And Christians or Catholics or Mormons. And Marquette lost.
Mormons are not
Christians.
Anyway, go ahead.
I have a college football video game. I make a separate conference of, just Baylor, Duke, Vanderbilt, Wake Forest, all the pseudo Christian colleges.
Yeah. Liberty lost really early.
We lost really bad. It was awful. I was in the arena. They had a watch party, so there were.
It's crazy. The largest Christian university in the world can't accumulate 10 good players. It's crazy.
But they might have some of the sweetest baseball uniforms in the game right now.
Do they really? I haven't seen it.
Oh, dude, the powder blues,
incredible.
I have a very, very old school attitude about baseball uniforms.
We got a walk-off home run in the baseball game before the basketball team.
Now, those banana guys got cool uniforms.
No. Stupid.
Yeah.
Nah.
All right. The banana guys are over here selling out Raymond James Stadium.
Right?
Yeah. The Harlem Globetrotters sold stuff out, too, in their heyday. It is what it is.
Okay. Talking about, elitists
That's
when
what
it
they
comes
are.
to a specific genre. All right.
For sure.
In 20 years, Savannah Bananas will be gone. The MLB will be here.
But the word of God will remain the same.
No, the MLB will be here, though.
All right, guys, let's dive into our questions. Before we do that, let's talk about what is powering our podcast, Church Merch. Jeff,
it's merch for your church.
Our lovely friends about Church Merch.
Man, I don't know much about it other than they sponsored our event that we had recently, which was awesome. Yes, we got coffee cups, mugs to be exact, camp mugs, I think they're called, right? My daughter ate ice cream out of one yesterday, and it was maybe the best ice cream experience she's had in her life because of the container. But if you go to howcanipray.com, you can see a pretty cool thing. I came home with a couple shirts from the conference and gave them to a couple of the younger guys in my church, and they've been wearing them, and they like them a lot. And so, yeah, check it out. Howcanipray.com, church merch, get everything you need for things like new guest packets. If you're going to give a new guest something, maybe give a t-shirt out, maybe get some baptism shirts. That's something that's nice to have, some shirts ready for baptisms or children's ministry workers or youth ministry workers, whatever you need. Church Merch has got it. Check them out.
We are excited about our sponsorship with Church Merch.
The shirts are buttery soft. I will say that. So good, so soft and beautiful.
The shirts are very soft.
Yes.
The link is in the description. Go to Church Merch and tell them that we sent you. Hey, let's go to our first question on Reddit. The title of the question is how to tell a worship leader she can't sing. He says, so I am all about everyone leading in the gifts and living out that Ephesians 4 life of raising up the body to do works of service. I really believe we should all be functioning in our gifts for our own joy, for Jesus, and for the church. But
okay, Paul, in the world of church, we have to give that preamble before we say, but this person really stinks at singing. We all assume, bro, if you're a pastor, we all assume everything you said in the preamble. Continue. Go ahead.
What do you do when somebody in the body thinks they have a gift that they just don't have? This applies to all gifts, but the lady has sung on worship team before because no one has the heart to tell her she just can't sing. It's pretty bad. I also don't want visitors to come in and be put off by the worship experience because of poor leading. She loves Jesus, has a heart for worship. That's not in question. It's her singing that's the problem. I know it's not all about perfection, but we also have to have a good worship experience. Am I being messed up here? Would you just keep her singing anyways? If not, how do you even begin to bring this conversation up to her? This sounds like a fast way to hurt her feelings and get her family upset. Her family has been a ministry family at the church for decades, so I really don't want to offend her, but I don't think she should have to suffer through this any longer. We should suffer. Okay, we should suffer this any longer. We have no worship pastor. It's just me. There
Apparently.
are 2 rotating teams, and that's about it. Our worship overall isn't star production. We're all right, but what this lady leads it, when this lady leads it, it crashes the experience. All right, guys, I think even the broader picture of like, how do you tell someone whose gifting doesn't match where they're serving? But like, this is a big one. And in fact, Tim, I know I wish we had Sarah here because she's had to do this, and this is probably one of the parts of her job she likes the least. Obviously, I don't think any worship leader loves telling people.
Hey, if you're a worship leader listening to this and you like to do this, you're not a good pastor.
By far the worst part.
You're a musician, not a pastor.
Yeah,
which is okay. Like some people should be musicians and not pastors.
Yeah,
but you're not a pastor if you're like
Simon Cowell. One thing that I will say, this has worked out well at Lakeview to make it less personal when it comes to, hey, your voice just kind of sucks, is Sarah, our worship leader, will once a quarter have basically a team-wide skill development process where everybody shows up for, we call it like a jam session. And if you were interested in joining the team, you have to show up to one of these first, where your skills can be assessed at one of our quote unquote jam sessions. And it's not like a personal audition. You're actually with the team. And then after that, she can then go back and say, hey, you're actually a better fit for this ministry, or it's not going to work out well for us here.
You should be on the parking team.
I can't wait.
I'm just like, it's so hard, dude. It's so hard.
I can't wait for
the person.
I can't wait for the clips of this episode where Tim is zoomed in on with glasses. It's going to be great.
I can't see.
It's so bright in here.
It's so bright right now. It's the sun, Jeff.
All right, here's what I would say about this. He said it sounds like a fast way to hurt her feelings and get her family upset. Yes and yes. I'm sorry, but it is. Because let's be honest about it. Musicians, especially singers, we are touchy. We get our feelings hurt a little bit easy about this because we are artists and we are sensitive and maybe oversensitive. And the reality is I'm assuming this guy's a lead pastor. As a lead pastor, I don't know how long you've been at this church, but you are apparently reaping some rotten fruit from the previous ministry to you, because whoever was the pastor before you did not do a good job of telling this person the truth. And the fact is, like you have said, he not only did a disservice to the church, and I have some thoughts about worship experience and guests, but he really did a disservice to this person and their family, because you allowed someone who is very obviously bad at this job to continue to do it to their embarrassment, dude. Like, it's secondhand embarrassment is a real thing. And, you know, we wouldn't let somebody who is just really bad at teaching, like, oversee Sunday school and teach every week, or at least I hope we wouldn't. You know, practically speaking, you're going to have a very difficult conversation. Very practically, one thing I would do is start recording your services. Doesn't need to be anything special. You literally could just put a phone in the room and let it record a video of you guys leading and her singing, and then sit down and have an honest conversation. And will it be hard? Yes. Will she probably have tears? Absolutely. Will that family maybe leave your church? It's possible, but that's part of your role. It is to tell people the truth and to hopefully, you know, see if there's another place where she can serve. I had this experience, a number of times, but the one in particular I can remember, I think I've told the story before in here, but at the end, the lady actually told me, like, thank you for telling me the truth, because other worship teams have just shut the mic off and pretended, and that hurt my feelings worse. And, right after the meeting I had with her, We didn't talk for about a week. She was pretty upset. She left, but then she called me and, said, thank you for telling me the truth. And basically my message to her was, look, we don't have anyone here who's a vocal coach. Your vocal ability is not up to the place where it needs to be in order to not be a distraction in the corporate gathering, from the place of leadership. So I would recommend you get some vocal lessons and see if that's something that can be grown. All of us have a ceiling for our talent. Like he mentioned Ephesians 4, God has gifted us in different ways, and all of us have a ceiling. When it comes to aesthetics in the church, my kind of belief is that as a pastor, it's not my role to necessarily find the most talented people and get them to serve in those specific roles. If they're in my church, great. My job is to help people find out where the ceiling is for their talent and get as close to it as they possibly can. Meaning, if you're a guitar player, you should get as good as you possibly could get. No one's going to be John Mayer except John Mayer, maybe the greatest guitar player of our generation, right? But you can be better than you are. And that takes some dedication. It takes some practice. Vocals is the same thing. I will say, for some reason, vocals is a little more personal because it's like you're making the sounds with your body. You're not playing an instrument, like it's literally you. So it's very easy for it to become like a identity thing. I could just see where you guys are going with that. Go ahead, Andrew. I know you want to talk next. Make some sounds with your body. Go for it.
I was answering Tim's question.
Golly. Can't say nothing
Andrew,
on here.
Can you make sounds with your body? That's all I was asking.
That was such a good monologue, and then it ends like that.
I love that, though.
Jeff, I think what you said about other instruments is exactly right. Like, you wouldn't allow an out of tune guitar to be front and and maybe that's the analogy that you have to make to this person.
Yeah.
I think recording and playing back.
I wouldn't allow a guitarist who couldn't hear that their guitar was out of tune. That's actually closer to this. It's not even that the guitar's out of tune, it's that the person playing it is like the only one who doesn't realize it's out of tune.
And Jeff, you're right. It's something that's just different about vocalists. If someone is whatever instrument it is, if you're the only instrument that you are contributing is your voice, I don't sing or play an instrument, so I'm not one to talk, but I've never had a keyboard player take a critique poorly. I've never had a bass player, get all huffy, but a singer, there's something different about it. So I honestly think you record it and then you just kind of not anonymously, but you say to the whole group, hey, we want to work on getting some things better around here. Could all of you listen to this week and, give me the feedback. Tell me what you're hearing, so that she has to hear it for herself and then has to talk about it.
But I would just add, if the culture of this church is that they haven't been telling her the truth for a long time, I'm not sure that's going to do anything but just exacerbate what's already going on. If I'm in this situation, I literally would record it and just have that one-on-one with her and say, hey, let's listen to this together. I know you can hear what I hear, and if not, I just need to tell you the truth that like you're not up to par. Now, the whole conversation about it being off-putting for guests, I have a little bit of a hitch there in my giddy up because like that's really not the purpose of, I said hitch my giddy up. That's not the purpose of corporate worship. Although it's part of what is happening, and I do think I keep it in mind. I wouldn't make that the main point. That's like 10th down the list of importance for me in this conversation with this person. First
this summer I was visiting a church, and there was an awful music moment in the service, and I sent all of you guys the Facebook Live link to the service and told you what minute to scrub to. But I was a visitor in that church, and within 10 minutes of that horrible moment, there were 4 other churches where people were listening to that.
Yeah.
So, yes, you're not going to make that decision just based solely on what a visitor might hear, but what a visitor hears gets out to your community real quick.
I think my biggest thing because I've led worship teams before, is don't forget you're her pastor. I think Jeff said, you're not a band leader, right? I mean, you are, but if you're a pastor, So when you're having that conversation pastorally, I'm going to enter that like I would. I mean, similarly to church discipline in the sense of like I'm prayed up first. And also there is an outcome that we hopefully she can land on, whether it's, hey, we're going to enter this season of, like, for example, if I had an issue, say it's not church discipline, but I need to talk to a congregation, I'm their pastor, it's a teacher, right? And they're not sharp enough. I'm going to sit down with that teacher and I'm going to say, hey, listen, I'm going to mentor you over the next 6 weeks, or I'm going to provide a place for you to learn. I think that it's healthy to, if you could do that in your worship setting, say, hey, listen, want to have a conversation, be prayed up, be very humble. And it's even okay to let them know. I mean, I think sometimes pastors, we think we got to walk in there and acting like we know the outcome. It's okay to let them know this is a little hard for me to have this conversation as well. Because if you do that, that's letting them know that like you do mean the best for them. And then once you say the thing, also, you can let them respond, but then also but here's the way forward. I've got a place that we can go and get you some lessons. But in the meantime, since everyone already knows your face because you're on stage, how great would it be if you came out in the lobby with the greeting team? Because the people come in would be like, I know that face. And now there's a familiar person. Like you can provide some different options in the meantime while she's being trained. I just think this whole thing needs to be handled less from the pragmatic and more from the pastorally side.
I also think you have to face the reality that she is going to feel betrayed. I think that's a reality here. She is going to feel like, why has no one ever told me this?
Yeah, maybe not by you. Maybe she
Right.
feels supported by you. Yeah.
But if you're the senior pastor, you kind of get looped in, like you represent the church, sort of. And so for you to come say it, it's going to be a feeling. It's probably a combination of feeling like you're way out of touch. Why you're the only one who's ever told me this, and then it's going to shift to, oh my gosh, how long have people been not telling me this? And that's going to be that sense of betrayal. So yes, this is a very fast. Her feelings are going to be hurt by you telling her this. But like, I mean, I know I'm the guy that always says this, but as a pastor, kind of suck it up, Buttercup. Like you're going to have this conversation. That's just the reality of part of our job when it comes to this.
In your giddy up, suck it up, Buttercup.
Jeff's feeling great today.
I feel like Jeff is like a Toy Story Woody doll, the way that he's using these euphemisms.
It sounds with your body.
He started, and he has all these like pithy statements, and I'm all for it.
I do.
Agree.
Hey,
I
how you doing?
I hear that we have to acknowledge in every ministry that not every desire to serve equals a gifting in that area. That's okay. Like there's a discipleship issue here that we could lean into, where we still affirm this person's desire to serve. Like that's a good, healthy, godly desire. We just have to find the right fit for that person. That's why I think in looping them in with this, you bring either another ministry lead in to say, hey, would this be a good fit for you? Or you recommend another spot for them instead of just turning them away. Like, why can't they serve in another area? And we had this very difficult conversation with a Lakeview family not that long ago. And Jeff, everything you said was true. They were hurt. We weren't sure if they were going to leave. It took a few weeks. They calmed down and they actually started serving in another area. It was a beautiful thing. It worked out well. They're still very faithful to the body at Lakeview, and it's a sweet fit with where they're at, but they had to go through a really painful process. But I don't know, like you said, Jeff, I don't know if anyone had ever told them before the truth. And I do think the truth is the right route, but it's going to be painful for sure.
And the thing is, there's a
their
way to
families
tell
involved.
There's a way to tell them the truth.
Generations enabling this.
Yeah, and there's a way to tell the truth without being like, "Hey, you idiot, you can't sing." Like that's not what we're talking about. It's much more gentle than that.
It's pastoral.
I do think that one principle in general is that with these forward-facing leadership positions, be slow to place these people there. And like, I mean, this is why. I mean, the unfortunate thing is, and this guy, like, he inherited this, and like a good church, even like a small worship team, a small church, should have some sort of auditioning process.
And if you have to slim down to one guy with an acoustic or just a keyboard for a long time, that's fine. I'm telling you.
Yes.
Younger generations, especially if you're thinking about reaching younger people, they really don't care about having a big production. It is totally fine.
Let's dive into the next question. Another question from Reddit. The title of this question is called "Rejected by a Third Church." So last April, I graduated with a master's degree in Christian ministry. I'm 42, so a little bit older. Since then, I've applied for 3 separate positions and have been denied 3 times. One time took 5 months and they eventually ghosted me. Oh, this time took 3.5 months and I even got to preach a sermon in front of their entire congregation. The process is brutal and it seems overly complicated. I'm starting to feel pretty dejected. Does anyone have a similar story that ended in success? Is this part of the course? Any words of encouragement would be awesome. Andrew, what is our common thing that we say to people who are looking for a job?
Well, first of all, you got to call Matt Steen.
Call
for
Matt
chemistry
Steen.
Staffing.
Yep.
Love that guy.
Yeah. I think that the short and quick answer is, unfortunately, this is very common. Like there's no common. One thing is like churches all function differently in their own hiring process. And because of that, most people who are on these like search teams for churches are lay people who are doing this, in the evenings, once a month or whatever the time frame they have. And so they don't have like a structured process in doing this. And so it's not unusual to go months and then be ghosted. Like I hate that. I wish this is one of the few times, and even they don't do it well, the few times like the big mega churches have a pretty good process in this because they have a dedicated HR team, a dedicated, executive pastor who focuses on hiring and firing. But even then, they have the propensity of taking months and months and months. And this is why organizations like Chemistry Staffing are so useful in this, because one, they're kind of pushing the church to meet deadlines and they're keeping you looped in the entire time of where it is. And they'll tell you why you didn't get the job or why you didn't get the next interview or whatever the case may be. So, I'll say this based on some context clues. I don't know, but you're 42 and you just finished your master's degree. Actually, that's not unusual.
That's
not unusual at all. I'm sorry. When I first read this quickly, I thought it was your undergrad. Okay, this is not unusual at all. But I do wonder if this is your first ministry position. If this is, that might be the depending on the position you're looking for, that might be the big overcoming barrier. Because if you're looking for a senior pastor position as your first position outside of your master's degree, that's going to take a very unique church who's willing to take a risk on you. If you are like applying for a youth pastor degree, ministry position or something like that, then the other hurdle that you might be facing is, sadly, churches have a low view of older youth pastors, if that makes sense. Like they want someone in their mid to late 20s, maybe even younger than that. And so I don't know what position you're
They want someone that can work hard and pay little.
Exactly.
And they don't want a real grown up for that role.
Wow. So 42 years old.
Loves talking about not getting paid.
42 years old. 42 years old. You probably have a family. Your value, or that maybe value isn't the right word, how much you should be compensated for is going to be higher than most, and therefore
it's going to be higher than most entry level ministry positions.
Right, you have experience they don't have. Yeah,
sure. Yeah. So I there's going to be a lot of responses from this conversation, but I will say this: is it common? Is it yes? Is it brutal? Yes. Is there hope on the other side of this? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. There's people who have been strung along for a year and they finally got the job. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hate this. I don't like it. This is why if anyone's asking me how should I find my first ministry position, I would tell them to go to Matt Steen, because at minimum you have alerts along the way in the process to kind of know what's going on, where you going to churchstaffing.com or some job board and just sending a resume to an email address, who knows what that's going to be like. And churches rarely say, here's the timeline. I would encourage you to do this. Your next job you're applying for, say, hey, when you talk to someone, when can I expect a response? And when can I, what has been typically the process for candidates? Ask those questions, because one, you might be the only person asking that question. And two, it gives you a frame of reference of like, okay, this is going to take another 3 or 4 months. So guys, what do you think?
42 is not that old to be finishing a master's degree.
You're right.
That's a fairly common thing. I think we are seeing a lot of people go to seminaries as a second career. They got the engineering degree or whatever it was that they did for a decade from undergrad, and then that just wasn't exactly the right fit, or whatever else life brought at them. And in fact, most seminary statistics say that students 35 and older have a way higher GPA than students under 30. It's not even close.
My
So,
GPA crushed in
I
seminary.
was gonna say
Undergrad,
my
Jeff knows, we barely made it. We barely passed Trinity.
2.1, baby. That's how I got out of
we
undergrad.
barely got out of it.
my
Not
GPA, my last degree was a point and a half higher than my previous degree, which is not good. I can only speak of the two seminaries I have experience with, but both Dallas and Liberty have extensive job placement offices through the alumni department. So you are, and some schools will charge for something like that, but usually you get those services free for a year at just about any reputable seminary. So there's somebody at your seminary who their job is to help with your resume. Their job is to help connect you with churches. Reach out to them. You're about a year removed from graduating. So this is the time to get in with that. Plus, they have statistics that they have to give to their accrediting board and when they're recruiting, and they want to say X% of our students have a job within a year of graduating. So they really want you to get a job. So reach out to the school. There's an office that's going to help with that. What Frank said about using chemistry staffing, and any of the staffing agencies, we prefer chemistry around here, but Vanderbloemen is great. Slingshot's good. Whoever you want to use, by all means, reach out to them. But if you're preaching in view of a call at these churches, I'm guessing that it's that you're looking at senior pastor positions. And if you feel like that's what you're called to, then it's going to be a long haul. I would be looking into some kind of associate pastor role, a small group pastor role, a church where you're going to be serving with several other pastors for the first few years out of seminary so that you can get your feet wet with other pastors around you before you are pastoring a church on your own. That's what I would suggest that you look into. But first and foremost, I would call the seminary office and say, hey, who's helping? Who do I need to get in contact with?
Yeah.
I want to say, usually this is the thing like Jeff or Andrew says, so it feels a little awkward for me, but have you ever thought about like maybe you can't preach and you don't present well and there's a lot of red flags about you that you don't know about, kind of like the musician?
Get him, Delmar.
Like, yeah. But not like I said, the only reason I say that is because from experience. Have any of y'all ever met a guy who's in seminary and you're like, I literally don't know one place that I would trust that would hire that guy. But no one's willing to tell them because that's personal. It's not even just your voice. You're like, I have this calling with my life from God. And I'm not saying that about this person, but if people are ghosting you specifically and you go and you do pulpit and then they say no, if you're already doing the pulpit, that means the church is already slanted towards yes, the leadership, something happened in there that made it go no. I would want to know why. And other than we just don't have a good feeling about it, which is what a lot of churches say when they don't want to actually say the thing. So I would encourage if the churches say no, reach out. But in right now space, I would encourage you to find some spiritual leaders in your life, preferably pastors, sit down and say, this is going to be the most difficult thing to hear, but I'm giving you permission. Please tell me, is there anything that are red flags to me as a minister? Because let's be honest, like we've all had that at least one guy where like he is going into tens of $1,000s of debt. I don't know if they're ever going to use that degree. But that's one of those things. It's like, I'm not going to tell somebody else how to raise their baby, but if you give them permission, you might learn some things in there as well. So I would encourage, instead of just saying, oh, it's the church process and it's lengthy, which those things are true, I would be doing my own little renovation and saying, okay, what can I do right now to clean up my own stuff if there's anything?
The church hiring process can be slow and painful. I know because I've been a part of it. I've been on a lot of it's volunteer teams. So you've got volunteer search teams who maybe have one or two staff members and they can only meet. When we were looking for a worship leader, I could only get the team together once a month to meet. So yeah, it took months and months and months to get the search process going and to find the right person. So yep, it's slow and it's complicated. I would say that your calling in ministry is not defined by the hiring process of a church. You've only applied for 3 churches, 3 positions. Practically speaking, I would expand the search. maybe open it up to smaller churches, be open to taking on a different role, all while at the same time, don't stop serving. Wherever you're attending, actively serve. Be a part of whatever church you're currently in. And the huge benefit to getting involved with an organization like Matt Steen and his
Chemistry staffing.
glorious company Chemistry Staffing would be, you're going to get feedback. That's probably the main thing you need right now. Where did you goof on? As Delmar said, was it just a really poor presentation? Like, were you just not a good public speaker? They'll be able to find out those details for you, because sometimes churches and volunteer teams don't do a good job of telling an applicant why they didn't get the job, but they'd be more open to talking to an organization who could then tell you, here are some things you need to do to work on to get a little bit better. And I don't know. I think there's nothing wrong. Like there's nothing against you aligning yourself with an organization that's going to help you. I don't even think they charge you.
They don't.
Like, it's completely free. So it's kind of a no-brainer. Why would you not get involved with an organization that's going to help you find the right fit?
Maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was reading an article about the church search process, and whoever wrote it, and I wish I could remember who, because I thought this was great, and I've told probably a dozen people since, said that you need to have 7 active applications going at a time if you want to find a role within a 6-month period. And the minute you hear no from a church, you need to be getting more applications out. So I don't know if you've just found
like only 3
like
no's
if you
so
found 3 churches that you're like, oh, this would be the sweet spot for me.
Yeah.
You need to apply at some places that won't be that aren't what you think is the sweet spot. God is sovereign in all things, and I'm assuming you believe that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have just spent that time and energy getting that ministry degree. So trust God, trust the process. But really, you need to be applying for as many open positions as will fit you and your context and your skills. So keep applying, and the minute that you hear a no, just say okay, and then apply to the next one.
Agreed.
Well, this was a good episode of the podcast. Hopefully those friends can benefit from the answers that we gave them. We will be back same time, same place next week. We hope to see you there. Make sure you check out Church Staffing. And again, even though we're not
Church
sponsored,
staffing?
We'll check them out too, I guess.
Go to the Youth Specialties Job Board.
Check out
Go to
myspace.com.
sbc.org/jobs. You can find every Southern Baptist church job opening.
check out church merch. We love them. And also, even though they're not sponsored, check out Chemistry Staffing. See how that messed up? Church merch, Chemistry Staffing, Church Staffing.
Get that.
All right. With that being said, I'm Frank Gill. I'm Jeff Simpson.
I'm Delmar Pete.
I'm Andrew Larson.
And I'm Timothy Miller.
We'll see you next week. Bye.